Don't let the highlights fool you. When you look under the hood of this defense, there's a real, blunt problem that keeps coming back, and it isn't pretty. Right now, the narrative around the Cowboys seems torn between the shiny new additions and the obvious holes that keep getting exposed on third down and in the deep game. You heard the chatter. Big money on the back end, stars on paper, and yet the opposing quarterback looks like he's got a cheat sheet every time he snaps the ball. That's what we're digging into. The mismatch between payroll and production, and whether the moves the club made actually solve the core issues or just paper over them. I want you to listen for two things as we go. Where the blame really lands, player, scheme, or coaching, and which fix would make the biggest immediate difference for the rest of this season. Let me level with you. The most frustrating part is the predictable sequence. Opponent moves the chains. The pass rush gets into manageable situations, but because the secondary can't consistently lock down targets, every third and long turns into a yardage buffet. That's not hyperbole. That's what costs you late-game chances and keeps the offense from breathing easy. You'll hear commentators point to the front seven getting pressure. That's true sometimes. But pressure alone doesn't win games if receivers are running free and safeties are late to help. And when you've handed out big contracts and then see your highest paid defensive backs targeted repeatedly, you have to ask if the team misread the roster, misread the scheme fit, or simply mispriced a player. Here's what I want from you right now. In the comments, drop a quick yes or no. Do you think the Cowboys have truly fixed the defensive problem? Type yes if you believe the fixes are already working, no if you think it's still broken. I'll read through those as we go, and I'll call out a few in the next chapter. Also, if you're new here, please hit subscribe. We're pushing for 16,000 subscribers, and your click helps keep these deep breakdowns coming. If you already subbed, thank you. Please like the video so it reaches more fans just like you. To preview what's coming next, we'll break down the secondary's tape problems, the numbers that back them up, and whether some of those high-dollar signings are living up to expectations. Then we'll move inside to the trades the front office pulled off, and whether those moves shift the balance or simply paper the cracks. Stick with me. This isn't a hot take. It's a close look at why the scoreboard still reads what it does, and what the Cowboys actually have to do to change that. The truth is, money doesn't always buy coverage. You can pour millions into the secondary, stack the depth chart with names that sound like difference makers, and still find yourself watching receivers sprinting free across the middle. That's been the recurring nightmare for this team. The numbers tell the story better than any highlight reel. Targeted 45 times, 33 receptions allowed. Just one interception. That's not the stat line of a corner playing like a $92 million man. And that's what fans are feeling when they see the same breakdowns repeat week after week. It's one thing to struggle when you're rebuilding, but it's another to watch the most expensive part of your defense become the weak link. When you see a player who once looked like a turnover magnet, now turning into the go-to target for opposing quarterbacks, it raises two questions. Did the team pay too soon? And is this really about the player or the system around him? Because last season, with Diggs beside him and Micah Parsons collapsing pockets every snap, the same defensive back looked unstoppable. Now, without that same cushion of pressure and coverage help, he's getting isolated, and every opposing offensive coordinator seems to know it. That tells you something about how fragile the balance was between pass, rush, and secondary. Lose one piece, and suddenly the rest looks exposed. Here's the thing that really frustrates veteran fans. This pattern isn't new. Paying players after one hot year, waiting too long on stars, flipping the priorities. The front office did it before, and now we're back in that same spot, watching a secondary full of talent but short on confidence. And that confidence gap shows up on tape. You see corners giving too much cushion, safeties hesitating before rotating, and linebackers stuck between stepping up against the run or dropping back into zones that don't match up cleanly. That split second of doubt, that lack of trust, it's the difference between a deflection and a 30-yard gain. Now, I'm not saying this defense can't rebound. The talent is there. What's missing is chemistry and a scheme that plays to what these guys actually do best. And that leads us to an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you can't buy your way out of a fit problem. You can write the check, but if the system isn't maximizing your investment, that check just turns into another dead cap headache down the road. The Cowboys need to decide whether they're willing to tweak the system around their high-paid corners or keep forcing them into a setup that exposes them every week. Before we move on, I want to hear from you. If you could only fix one thing right now, the scheme, the personnel, or the coaching, which one would you choose? Drop your pick in the comments. Just type A for scheme, B for personnel, or C for coaching. I'm curious where you think the real fix starts. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Every new sub gets us one step closer to 16,000, and it helps keep these breakdowns coming. Up next, we'll shift the focus to the front seven and the big trade that everyone's still debating. Did it really move the needle? Or did the Cowboys just buy a name without solving the actual problem? Let's get into that in the next chapter. Now, let's talk about the front seven. Because honestly, this is where the story gets messy. When you look at how this defense was built, it's supposed to start up front. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Mazie Smith, that's your foundation. And yet for stretches of this season, it feels like that foundation has been built on sand. The Cowboys made moves to fix the trenches, including that mid-season trade that got everyone talking. A deal that sounded great on paper but hasn't changed the bottom line much on the field. When that trade went down, fans thought it was the missing piece. A veteran presence, someone to plug gaps, anchor against the run, bring a little edge. But what we've actually seen: inconsistent gap control, over-pursuit, and linebackers left hanging out to dry. It's like the defense keeps getting out of sync between levels. One lineman crashes inside, another loses contain, and suddenly you've got 5 yards before contact. That's not championship defense, that's desperation defense. And this is what makes it tough to watch if you've followed this team for years. The Cowboys know what elite front seven play looks like. We saw flashes of it when Micah was free to roam and attack. But lately, he's being forced into doing too much. Rushing, spying, dropping back. Trying to be the solution to every single leak. You can't win that way long term. When your superstar has to be Superman every down, it means the system around him isn't doing its job. There's also the development question. Mazie Smith was drafted to be that interior force, the anchor that frees everyone else. But when he's only getting a fraction of the snaps, or being rotated in weird spots, how is he supposed to grow into that role? That's coaching. And it goes back to the same issue we've been hitting all video. The fit doesn't match the investment. They keep bringing in talent but forcing them into roles that don't maximize what they do best. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still time to turn it around. The NFC playoff picture isn't locked, but if the Cowboys want to make real noise, it starts right here in the trenches. This team doesn't need flashy highlight plays. It needs consistency. It needs that relentless old-school Cowboys energy up front that sets the tone for everyone else. Because when this front seven dominates, the entire defense looks elite. But when it doesn't, everything else crumbles. So here's my question to you. Do you still believe this front seven can live up to its potential? Or do you think it's time for a bigger shakeup? Maybe even another trade in the offseason? Drop your thoughts below. I want to see where Cowboys Nation stands right now. And if you're enjoying the breakdown so far, hit that like button. It really helps the channel and keeps the updates rolling as we push for that 16K milestone. Next up, we're digging into the leadership question. Who's really setting the tone for this defense? And is it strong enough to hold the locker room together when things start to slip? That's where we're headed next. Leadership. It's the word that gets thrown around every time the Cowboys hit turbulence. But right now, it's not just a buzzword. It's the central question. When the defense starts giving up easy yards, when tempers flare on the sideline, and when fingers start pointing, who steps in and resets the tone? For the great Cowboy defenses of the past, that answer was clear. You had voices that commanded the room. DeMarcus Ware, Sean Lee, even guys like Darren Woodson. But today, it's not so clear-cut. Micah Parsons is the heartbeat, no doubt about it. He brings fire, he brings intensity, and he can flip the energy of a game in one play. But leadership isn't just about highlight moments. It's about the quieter stuff. The accountability. The communication on the field when things break down. And that's where this current defense feels like it's still searching for an identity. When Micah's frustrated, and you can see that frustration now and then, it spreads. When the energy dips, it dips across the whole unit. And that's not to take anything away from Parsons. It's just the reality of how leadership has to evolve. The Cowboys need more voices, not just one. Guys like Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, and DeMarcus Lawrence have been around long enough to steady the ship, but we're not seeing that collective leadership moment yet. And maybe that's what's missing. Not talent, not effort, but that emotional anchor when things start slipping. The kind of player who can rally everyone before it spirals into another, "How did this happen again?" Sunday. You also have to look at the coaching side. Dan Quinn's fiery, player-first style worked wonders early on. He built confidence, let guys play fast. But defenses evolve, and so do locker rooms. Once players start pressing or questioning the scheme, it takes strong, steady voices to pull them back together. That's the next challenge for this staff, reigniting belief without overcomplicating things. Because here's the truth. No scheme works if the players aren't on the same page emotionally. You can draw up the perfect call, but if the energy and focus aren't aligned, it'll still fall apart. The Cowboys need to rediscover that unity, that collective chip on their shoulder. Not me versus the world, but us versus everybody. And I want to throw this out there for you watching. When you think of Cowboys, leadership on defense, who's that one guy you still trust, no matter what? Drop the name in the comments. Let's see if Cowboys Nation agrees, or if we've got a split. Coming up next, we're wrapping it all together. The money, the scheme, the locker room, and answering the big question. Is this fixable in time to save the season? Or are we just seeing the same cycle repeat all over again? Let's close this out strong. So here we are. The question every Cowboys fan is asking, is this fixable? After everything we've seen, the blown coverages, the uneven pass rush, the inconsistency on third down, is this defense really just one adjustment away from turning it around? Or are we watching another chapter of the same old story play out in real time? Let's be honest, it's both. The talent is there. That's not in question. When you've got Micah Parsons, Trevon Diggs, when healthy, Darren Bland, and a front loaded with first-round picks, there's no reason this defense should ever look flat. But football isn't just about names. It's about alignment. When the front and the back end aren't working together, even elite players can look ordinary. That's what's been happening, and it's why so many fans feel like they're watching two different defenses depending on the week. The good news? This isn't unfixable. The Cowboys can still tighten things up if they go back to what worked. Letting their playmakers play fast, simplifying the reads, and trusting the rotation up front. Stop overthinking, stop trying to outsmart yourself, and get back to that aggressive, confident identity that had every offense second-guessing last season. That's the formula. But here's the flip side. If the leadership doesn't solidify, if communication keeps breaking down, then no amount of scheming will save it. Because you can't teach trust. It's built rep by rep, moment by moment. And right now, this defense has to rebuild that trust from the inside out. Between teammates, between coaches, between every layer of that unit. Until that happens, it'll keep being flashes of brilliance mixed with frustration. You know, fans have been through this roller coaster too many times. The hot start, the hype, then the mid-season slide. And yet, every year, we keep believing. Because that's what Cowboys Nation does. We see the potential. We see the pieces. We just want it to finally click when it matters most. So maybe that's the real message this week. It's not about finding someone to blame. It's about finding the version of this team that still believes in itself. Because when this defense believes, it's dangerous. It's game-changing. It's the kind of unit that can turn a playoff run from maybe into watch out. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this defense can pull it together before the postseason? Or are we headed for another off-season of what-ifs? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading through them all tonight. And if you've been with us till the end, you're the reason this channel keeps growing. We're closing in on 16,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Hit that like button, share this with another Cowboys fan, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next update. Because trust me, the story's far from over. This is Cowboys News TV, where passion meets the truth every single week. I'll see you in the next one.